Everybody likes Snoop Dogg's commentary from last night,
Shit's funny.
but they were shitting on him in the UFC.
Nah, it wasn't the UFC that was shitting on him. It was the fighters that were mad.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. The fighters.
Yeah, Snoop Dogg was like, "That's the take the booty position," and people were not happy about it. People were upset, yo. Yo, what's going on, y'all? This is the Highly Advised Podcast. I am here with my friends. It is a beautiful Sunday morning. We are here sitting here getting ready to bring y'all a good show with some good content. How are y'all doing this afternoon?
Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Spence. You're checking it out. I'm doing pretty good, man. I can't complain. It's been a good week overall. I had a good holiday weekend. Tried to stay COVID free, of course, as everybody else should have. I'm hoping. So, how about you guys? How about yourself, Lau? How was your holiday weekend?
Hey man, shouts out to everybody that had a good Thanksgiving. My Thanksgiving, it was cool. You know what I mean? I got to eat some good food. So shouts out to everybody that was able to go out there and help, like feed homeless or go out there, just give back in some certain way and then enjoy dinner with your families, and if you didn't know, now you know. It's your boy Big Cozy, Too Cozy, you know what I mean? The motherfucking bad guy, the motherfucker out here that's doing 10 a week, you know what I mean? So let's start the motherfucking show. So Nigel, he didn't tell the people how you was. How you doing, Nigel?
Oh man, I'm all right. I was talking on the show about how the Steelers, possibly could win whatever, go 11-0, but our game got pushed back. So now we are now waiting to see what's going on. Well, by the time the listeners hear this, the game will be over. But about 19 or 18 of their players have coronavirus, and one of our players, James Conner, he has coronavirus as well, and he's a survivor of cancer. So, shouts out to them, all prayers. I know we joke around, or at least I joke around a lot on the show, but definitely, shouts out to them and, prayers up.
Yeah, one thing I will never do is joke around about cancer. I know some people that pass away of cancer personally. I'm assuming you do as well, Spence. I know Nigel does. So it's something that I'll never ever joke on the show, whether I'm fucking around or not. It's a serious thing, and definitely shouts out to people who are definitely battling cancer and surviving through cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. That's not something I would ever want to joke about either. It is unfortunate what the situation is that's going on with Baltimore and even Pittsburgh, as well as the Denver Broncos as well, with them not having a quarterback right now. So, prayers to everybody that's dealing with this, and everybody, please wear a mask and stay inside.
Right, and we also from the Highly Advised Podcast wanted to say R.I.P. to Diego Maradona.
Yeah, rest in peace to him. Rest in peace to Lil Yaz also out of Sacramento or something like that, out of North California as well. It's a rapper that was shot and killed yesterday. So
yeah, definitely RP to that guy. You know what I mean? Never heard of that. So Spence, you're breaking news. You know what I mean? So definitely RP. That's once again unfortunate that another rapper passed away. RP to Diego. I know a lot of sports people like them. They say Kobe said that was like his favorite soccer player. Mike Tyson loved the guy. So RP to him. Here at the Highly Advised Podcast, we're not going to fake the funk. We're nowhere near soccer / football experts, but we definitely want to pay our respects to somebody that a lot of fans around the world loved.
Right. Well, before we get into the show, would y'all want to give our little ats and whatnot?
Yeah. Oh, matter of fact, make sure y'all follow me at Saint Kitch on Instagram, st.kitch. I cook a lot of good food. Everything's everything. And also follow us at the Highly Advised Podcast on Instagram. And also, if you want to check out the Twitter, is Advised Highly on Twitter. So y'all drop y'all ads real quick, man.
Big Cozy, Too Cozy. That's the at on Instagram. Big Cozy, Too fucking Cozy. The only one. It's not too fucking, by the way. It's Big Cozy, Too Cozy. But it's the only one. The one and only.
Switch your name up, man.
Man, I used to be Big Cozy, Big Silk, but I got rid of that. You know, I
Hold
had to
on, when
switch.
was this?
This is probably like 3 years ago, 3, 4 years ago. I was like, I remember when I was like loud fade, the fade, man. And I was like, man, I got to get rid of that. I'm not 17, 18 no more. I'm a little, you know,
Or
I'm bigger now. I make a little more money now. I got, the fine things in life. And I was like, you know what? I am kind of cozy. My limbs are extra relaxed. You know what I mean? Everything around me is very silk. I do like wearing the finest leathers. And I was like, you know what? That's it. Big cozy, big silk. Right. So I was running that by kind of like a test run. What you think of that? What you think of that? People are like, well, I like big cozy, but the big silk is kind of ha 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 ha. And I said, damn. And then next you know,
this dude really giving me the whole biopic. Go ahead.
and next you know that I was like, damn, that ain't too cozy. And I was like, bing, light bulb. That's it. Big cozy, too cozy. And then I just kept that motherfucker. And it's been ringing nonstop like a bell. You know what I mean? Contracts, all sorts of shit coming in.
Oh God,
Man, making you the man, the myth, and the legend at this point.
it's just weird that we actually hear like the origin story of Big Cozy, Too Cozy. I didn't think we were ever going to get that on the podcast. Y'all follow me at relaxingnog_Jackson on Instagram and Nigel No Shame on Twitter. So, y'all can find us on there doing cool shit, reading about things, watching videos, laughing, and all that good shit.
I wouldn't. I didn't honestly. I had no idea that's how you came up with your name. To be honest with you, I really figured like that big silk shit, like the big silk two silk thing. Like I ain't even gonna hold you. I never saw that, yo. I never saw that, and I never would have thought of. I never thought we would have ever got the story. I just thought one day it went from Fade Man to Big Cozy, Too Cozy. I looked up and I was like, oh, that's what it is.
Did y'all hear the story that Dave Chappelle told on Instagram earlier this week?
What's
I
the
seen
story?
something about it.
Well, so long story short, because he put out about a 20-minute video on Instagram talking about different times in his life where people essentially took money away from him or took things away from him and said pretty much there's nothing you're going to do about it. It's like I'm going to take it or you're going to give it to me. And so now he's in a situation where pretty much wherever the Chappelle show is being streamed, he's not getting paid for that. So he's saying, hey, just don't watch that show. Like, if you like him, he's like begging, please don't watch the show because that makes him no money and they should pay him in some type of way. Now, of course, he signed on to the contract that says that everything they're doing is okay, but is it right? Not necessarily.
Right. I mean, well, go ahead.
I was going to say the Viacom CBS, he was asking people to boycott the show since Viacom CBS was not paying him for the Chappelle show being on Netflix. And now I don't know the inner workings and the outer workings of the motherfucking deal or whatever like that, kind of like what you said. But I kind of agree with Dave though. Like it's your shit. It's kind of like the whole Taylor Swift thing. If you guys know about that, how she's struggling with her fucking masters, right? But like it's your shit, and it's one thing if you want to debate about percentages and shit like that, but it's another thing if you're not getting a dime.
Right. I mean, I understand that. Like, it does come down to, like, definitely when you are the one that's contributing the most to it and creating, like, this content, i.e. what Dave did with the Dave Chappelle show, he does deserve, like, a percentage of it or to some nature, something of it. But, like, it's also, like, that weird stickiness of, like, hey, when I met you, like this is the agreement that we signed to because I had more at the time than you did. You know what I'm saying? So unfortunately, like these were the circumstances of the contract. I do think they should I think the space that Dave Chappelle is in and the space that the company's in, they probably should come to some renegotiation, but I don't know. It's a tricky thing, but I did see where Netflix did pull the show down. They pulled the show down after Dave's rant rather about the wanting for the boycott to happen. So
I don't know.
It lets us know a couple things though, that at least we know where Netflix stands because we've seen how Netflix has been so good to Dave Chappelle. and his return to comedy. So it kind of lets us know where they stand in terms of like on the side of the creator or on the side of the creative or the creator,
Well,
essentially.
I think that they know that there's a lot of money dealing with Dave Chappelle. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, it just makes a lot of sense for Dave or for them to do what they did. I think it would be nice if it was from like a hey, from a human perspective, like we know this is the right thing to do. But because they're a company, I'm not so sure as to say that it's like a business move or just a what's the word I'm looking for? Like a moral move. You know what I mean? So I either way, it's good for Dave, and I'm hoping that something can change as far as the contract goes. I don't think it will, but I think he'll move around that because he's a smart guy.
Yeah, I mean, I think that for Netflix to take this show off, I think they will figure out some way to come to some agreement.
Right.
Just because at the end of the day, if I'm not able to move my product at all because of a lack of agreement to terms, I'm gonna come up. We're gonna figure out some new terms to agree upon, so we can get my product back out there. Now, I don't think now, will Dave Chappelle get 50-50? I don't know. 50-50 is like a hard shot, but like I think he's deserving of something of a decent percentage of the content or at least royalties from the content that he's made. Because this is no different than an artist putting out music 20 years ago and it's still getting played. Like the label's getting paid off of that still. Just like the artist is, depending on how they structure their deal.
Right.
I think this is like one of the few times definitely in the years today that we actually get to see like someone of a celebrity status really embrace like their social influence and use it against someone like not against someone but like you seeing how impactful it is for the right reasons versus like don't get me wrong, like there's a lot of things people have like pumped and pushed, but like a lot of times it fades away or comes in and out. And this is like one of those moments where it's like, okay, we're seeing a artist stand up for their artistry and saying, "Hey, these are the terms I want." Because I think something like this would probably, I think that something like this will resonate a lot more in the years to come for future comedians. I do believe.
Well, I think it's pretty dope when we see that with any type of celebrity. You know what I mean? Somebody standing up for their rights and being like, no, like, you should pay me what you owe me. You know what I mean? Like, we saw with Prince, Joe Budden, Dave Chappelle, and countless of other, celebrities and whatnot that end up, like you said, Taylor Swift, who just end up in these shitty situations that they technically signed on to, but it's like, it's not morally right. And I think, honestly, if some of these bigger companies start doing right by the artist, then more artists will start coming their way because it's like, hey, they're not going to screw me. They treat their artists well. It's like a job, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going to say any particular company, but me and Lau used to work for a company, and they treat their workers very bad, and it's very well known that they treat their workers bad, and people like are looking for alternatives to not buy from them because we know that they treat their employees bad. That's not a good look. You know what I mean? You want to buy from people who make people happy, who make their employees happy, who are just good people. You know what I mean?
Right. But let me ask you this though, like isn't the saying always been like is now you get what you not what you deserve but what you negotiate.
I mean, I'm not saying that's false, but it's. I would hope that it would go more towards the moral side at some point.
I wanted to kind of like bring this up with like Dana White, right? So earlier in the year, the pandemic hit. He was the first guy to come back and basically bring sports out of the quarantine. Pandemic, and there were some fighters that was kind of like disputing pay. I mean, pay is always going to be a thing in the UFC, but he came out and he was like, "Look, guys, you signed the contract. This is the contract that we both negotiated on, and you agreed to it. You signed. Now, don't be 2 or 3 fights in your contract, and you still got 3 fights left, and you're talking about, hey, I want a new contract. I want more money. It doesn't work like that, right? And then I know some people are kind of like, oh, he would switch the contract up for Connor and all that. I'm like, yeah, granted, that's one of those exceptions, right? Because he knows anything with Connor, Dana's going to have a good night. He already knows that, but it's not guaranteed where you have fighter A and B that generally the people don't know, he's going to switch the contract up for you. Like whatever you signed on to, that's what it is. And it's kind of like me and Nigel when we joined the infamous job, that probably some people could guess that, what he's referencing fuck it to, but we were going to leave them nameless for the sake of the show. That when we went to join the job, we knew it wasn't some glorious, hey, we about to get 6-figure paychecks, but at the same time, the other corner of it, we would appreciate if they did treat their employees better. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think that's always going to be the battle of situations like this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know I signed the contract and all that stuff. Like, this is what I negotiated, but like, this is what I kind of. Now, here's the thing about that, right? Are these contracts ironclad? Right? If they're ironclad, niggas the shit out a lot. But if they're not ironclad and they have loopholes and shit like that, then I don't blame like the artist or whomever to kind of push for a change.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily like a loophole or anything in a contract. I think in most times when people stall out more often than not in these situations, I think it's because they recognize party A, which would be the creator, recognizes, hey, at this point now I have more leverage because of whatever we've done together, whether it be you just giving me the platform and I do all the writing or whatever. Like, I'm in a space now where I can actually create and I have more leverage. So now I want to negotiate, so I may stall out. But in a situation where it's like, hey, we made a contract, this was the terms of the agreement, and we look at it from the standpoint of who Dave Chappelle is today, instead of looking at it from the standpoint of who Dave Chappelle was when he signed the contract, And I think the same goes for someone like Taylor Swift, because I just saw something on some award show or something where she was saying, I think right now she's like re-recording all of her music, all her old music, because she doesn't own the rights to the masters. But whose fault is, I'm not going to say whose fault is it necessarily, but it's not my fault if you signed a contract at one point in time and you had whoever you needed to look over it, and if it worked, it worked. If it didn't, it didn't. But you signed the contract. You understood what you were signing when you did. And that's like my whole thing when it comes to these situations as well. Like, I agree with you, Lau, where it's like, in hindsight, it's always easier to be like, hey, well, I deserve more, or you should have gave me more, X, Y, and Z. But the reality is, in the moment, that's not the case. Like, you're judging, unless I've proven that this works. I don't have as much leverage as I would think I would have in comparison to when the idea works, it blows up, and then I'm like, hey, I should have been, instead of getting 10%, I should have been getting 40 or 50%. Like, that conversation's always had in hindsight. And I think that's the thing about it, where it's hard to stick on one side. It works either way, but it's like, this was an agreement that you made at the moment in time. It's best that you guys find a way to come to an agreement now, because it's not necessarily a loophole, but you could stall out. But I think, I don't know, it's just one of those weird situations at this point. Like,
Well,
I hope the best for Dave, though, especially.
it's one of those things where I would hope that they would be able to fix it and kind of come to some type of conclusion that works for both parties, but I guess we'll see. I know that apparently for Barack Obama, he's trying to work out something where Drake would play him in a movie, or he says that Drake would be the perfect person to play him in a movie. Is that true? Have y'all heard that?
Imagine the contract for that.
Oh God,
Crazy.
Imagine the kind of contract that would have to be worked up for that to happen.
So,
but
before we get on this, like before we go deeper into this topic, have y'all ever met somebody whose like man crush was Barack Obama?
No.
Nah.
Apparently, a lot of women find him attractive.
I believe it. I mean, I see what happened on Twitter when he had the beige Easter outfit.
What?
When he had the beige suit, the tan suit.
Nah,
you saw how girls was going crazy?
I didn't see that. No.
Yeah. Oh, you got to be on. You're not tapped in, man. You got to be tapped into the Twitter streets, yo.
So how do I feel about Drake playing Barack Obama? Honestly, I think it's random.
I think that I could see it though because I mean I could see them trying to make them look alike. You know what I mean? A little bit of makeup. I'm sure you could pull some wonders off. You know what I mean?
I just think it's random. Like, yeah, we know Drake can act, but when's the last time Drake acted? You know what I mean? Besides outside of his music videos, Saturday Night Live. You know what I mean?
I don't think he's
And
interested.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't think that him acting is what he's really trying to pursue. Because I think he could have been had movie roles if he
Right.
really wanted. So
Yeah, no,
Was
I
he
totally
on?
agree with that.
Was he on Top Boy?
I don't know.
I don't know. I never watched that show, but the last thing I seen Drake in was Saturday Night Live, and that was years ago.
I mean,
And you know,
the last
and
time we seriously saw him act was like what? Like, was it Degrassi? Has he had a serious role since then?
not a serious role, but I know he was like a cameo appearance in Anchorman,
Okay.
the Will Ferrell movie. Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like physical acting, no, I don't think so. Like outside of like what you guys are named, because I think the only thing that comes to mind is like Ice Age.
Yeah, no. Look, you
Yeah.
know, honestly, I don't see Drake being that type of rapper where he, you know, is like kind of like a rapper slash actor. I think if anything, Drake will end up being going more towards the Jay-Z type route where he tries to get his money outside of rap and have it work for him. Now, I'm not saying do exactly what Jay-Z does, but I mean like, you know, try and make it work for him where he's getting a lot of money outside of just rapping.
Yeah, what she's, you could tell that's what he's been doing for the past couple of years anyway. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
don't just do the things that you can't have your own fucking commercial plane and shit like that, but not doing some of the things that he's probably doing outside of rap. So I truly think like, him playing our president in the past and shit, I just think it's just a random thing out of all actors to find. You're like, yeah, Drake can do it. And I'm like, I'm not saying that he can't do it. I just don't think of Drake as this top billing actor for the silver screen.
I can see Drake going into acting again because I know, but I think for him in this case now he's more concerned about being behind the camera than in front of the camera, if anything. So like, I mean, I think he might be able to pass for him with some makeup and everything like that, but I just don't see that being the necessary route that he would take, because if that would have been the case, if he were to take the Will Smith approach, I think he would have like doubled back into acting like hardcore like a while ago. So I do agree with, I think it was Nigel that said it, where him taking like more of the Jay-Z approach of just getting his money outside of just music, which he's already done, from the whiskey that he has to the clothing, which I think he has something dropping like in a couple of weeks on the 18th, I believe, with Nike. So like outside of that, like I mean, he doesn't necessarily need to act. Him playing Barack is like very random, but it is like, I mean, that's because I didn't hear about this. I think Lau was the one that had said something about it. When I heard about that, I was just like, what? I'm like, to me, I don't think I was in a space where I thought Drake would be actually making a film, let alone a film about the president. I think, I'll be honest with you, though that, granted, this is like a wish list for Barack, but like if for Drake in this situation, if Drake was to take a role like that on, it would be too much pressure, to be honest with you. Like that's the last type of role he would ever need to take, because it would be too many eyes on him. Like, and all it would take is just for a second for him to mess up.
Yeah, you have to kill it.
Well, I mean, imagine the backlash. They're gonna be like, "How are we gonna have a Canadian man playing an American?" You know?
Man,
remember
listen, there's
they
a
tried
lot
to
of
have-
things. There's a lot of things they have people play that they
No.
aren't. So.
I was
No,
about to
you're-
say
you-
Flex
you're right.
Alexander was Michael Jackson, so I mean, there's that.
Oh my god!
You said who?
Flex Alexander.
Oh God.
What the powder face?
Yo,
Oh my
just
god!
look at that face, man. Like, I don't know what they were thinking, like with the makeup. That shit looks horrible, man. Like,
And he said they got a second one coming.
oh god.
Yeah,
I'll watch it.
'cause
Fuck it.
I might watch it just because of like all that this year's been. I might just watch it.
But that might be the type of movie you go back and watch, and it's like so bad that it's enjoyable. You know what I mean?
Like Killer Season.
or like Ghost Shark.
What?
Ghost Shark.
It's this movie called Ghost Shark, man. This shark is a ghost and it's going around eating people.
Oh, that's some
Ghost
sci-fi movie
Shark?
shit.
Yeah,
in there.
it's. I'm telling you, it's a crazy movie. Yeah,
It's a sci-fi channel original shit.
exactly that.
Oh my god.
Check it
Do
out.
you ever realize? Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You're good.
No, I was just gonna say, you ever realize how like the Sci-Fi Channel just seemed like to have like just the weirdest movies as a kid, yo.
Hell yeah.
Sharknado.
Mega Shark versus Triceratops 3 or some shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You watch some craziness like that on like a Saturday, like what the heck am I watching? Like as an adult, you look back, you're like, what the hell was I watching?
It's like, who made this shit? Who gave him money to make this shit? That's my question.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and they make trilogies, sagas.
Oh my god.
They don't just make one; they make multiple. Like,
Radioactive Spider 5. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, all right, y'all.
No, you know what series they milked the hell out of, and it actually was successful was
Sharknado?
Godzilla.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Nah.
well, no, Godzilla actually, like, overseas especially, they take that shit serious, man.
I
Yeah.
know.
in Japanese
I-
culture and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I ain't gonna disrespect. I'm not trying to disrespect their culture, nothing like that. But like, why? Nah, they move as a force. Like when you see like watching it, right?
Yeah.
As a kid, I'm like, yo, fam. Every week he fought a moth, he fought a shark, he fought a gorilla. What else did he fight? He fought like something that lived in the clouds. He fought
Ghidorah.
himself.
What,
Yeah.
what did they call him, Nigel?
King Ghidorah.
No. The Japanese term for like those mythical beasts that
Oh, kaijus. is what they're called.
kaijus.
Yeah. So
Kaijus?
in Japanese
Kaijus.
culture, these big like monsters and shit like that, they're all called kaiju. So like, you have these big aliens, monsters, whatever the case is, that are destroying Japan. Like there's like 1,000 of them. Like, they're all called
Jeez.
kaijus.
Yeah.
Speaking of fighting big monsters, apparently there's a lot of fighting going on at the Grammys this past week.
Yeah, I heard something about what was it like with the weekend or something like that?
He didn't get nominated once.
Because they told him they was like, yo, choose up. It's either us or the Super Bowl, right?
Yo, for real? They said that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you ain't hear about
Yeah.
that?
Man, I'd be like, fuck y'all. Like, y'all aren't gonna tell me to choose shit. I'm the weekend.
Nah.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly.
Like the fuck? Like, who are y'all?
We're the Grammys, and you're not going to tell it. Like for real, to me, I'm with you. I'm not really here for it. Like, yo, I'm taking who I want, but like they probably felt as though like, yo, I put my shit on the table. Like, yo, like it's either us, either you choosing up. It's us or them, and I ain't got all night. Like that's pretty much what the Grammys told them.
So the weekend not being nominated for anything is a crime in itself. I don't know how you cannot. The guy, and I'm not talking about. So here's the confusion with the Grammys that a lot of people have. Artist A, he sold 10 million copies. You how is he not nominated for anything? And I'm kind of like, if it's based off of numbers, then you'll have artists like 6ix9ine and shit like that. They should be nominated in every category, damn near that. I said the Grammys, right? It's supposed to be credibility. Now, granted, the Grammys' credibility isn't strong when it comes to rap music at all, hip hop and R&B, right? It's not strong. So I can understand people still being upset with that, right? More specifically, outside of the weekend not being nominated, I think the rap album of the year thing, I think that is a debate to have, right? Because before in the past, people used to complain, oh, it's, they're nominating commercial albums. They're nominating albums. Like I remember when Macklemore won, people were very upset that he
Right.
won over Kendrick. And
He still
rightfully,
catches hell.
and rightfully so, right? Because Kendrick had the better album, right?
Right.
It's just that now you're putting incredible rap albums in the category. Oh, well, we don't, there's no Lil Baby, there's no Lil Uzi Vert. How did NBA Youngboy, he didn't get nominated for rap album of the year? And so I'm kind of like, well, first of all, you're telling me those albums are better than Alfredo when we're talking about quality of rap, you know what I mean? If it was a numbers game, then yeah, those guys should be in there all day. But it's not a numbers game. It's not. And I feel like the best solution is the Grammys need to have another category for like rap melody. You know what I mean?
I agree.
Best rap melody album. So you could put all the shit that the crybabies are crying about in there. All the shit that the little kids, from the suburbs or the kids that don't really listen to rap music, they listen to what they hear on the radio and social media, put them in their own fucking category, best social media album. And so this way that they could be happy because I like Lil Baby. I like Lil Uzi. You know what I mean? I don't really care for him being a young boy, but you're not telling me My Turn and Eternally Take is a better rap album than Alfredo. I'm sorry. You cannot tell me that. If you want to say Nas's album is better than Alfredo, I'll disagree with you. But I'm like, well, Nas is a good rapper. I'm not like I said, once again, I like the new guys, the auto-tune guys. You guys know I like Playboy Cardi, but like we're supposed to be talking about like a credible list. And I feel like if you start putting those guys in, you're going to have people complaining, wow, why is these little and baby this and baby that? Why are they nominated for rap albums and not real rappers? You know what I mean? And I just feel like they just need to make another category. That's how you're going to solve the problem.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll help. I think it'll help with solving the problem, but I think also you got to be mindful. Like, reality is like like the reality is like these artists can't necessarily look to. For me personally, I don't look for the Grammys to have the same taste that I have, right? And a lot of times saying like, yo, I'm personally I agree. Like I think Alfredo, there's no way you could tell me Eternal Take is gonna be over Alfredo, right? But I also know the people that are watching this show, if they show hip hop artists first and foremost, because I think now they've gotten more into the notion of showing the award ceremony for the rap artists or whatever. But even then, like, of course they're gonna nominate the people that you want to see perform and that people want to see perform. Like, unfortunately, like, granted, like I think Alfredo was nominated, but like, unfortunately, like let's be real, like if you have to pick between Lil Baby or Alfredo in terms of who's going to bring the biggest numbers in or views, we know who's going to be. And like, I agree, like you said, like they should separate it into a different category when it comes to like a melodic thing. But I'm not sure if it's not the Grammys, I'm not sure who it was, but I think someone did just open up a new category for one of these things. I'm not sure if it was VMAs or whoever it was, but for like new melodic album, I think, or melodic artist, I think.
I just think that it's the Grammys. They shot themselves in the foot because they've been fucking up for years when it comes to rap and R&B anyway. So they deserve the criticism that they're getting. You know what I mean? My problem is that just the fans really think like, hey, I'm not saying that the 5 albums I was nominated, Black Habits, Written Testimony, Alfredo, I forgot the other 2 right now off the top of my head. But I'm not saying that's a perfect category of albums to fucking put in there. But if you're telling me that you got to replace all 5 albums and you're going to replace it with all new nigga shit, Lil Baby, Lil Uzi, Da Baby, NBA Young Boy, it's like, whoa, hold on. Like that's crazy to me. Remember LMFO with the whole everyday shuffling and all that shit like that?
They won a Grammy?
No. I'm not saying that.
Oh.
But they were a big fucking like song, right? They had that big ass song. It was everywhere.
Right.
If you're telling me, hey, that's one of the best songs we heard all fucking year, that I could listen to that song 10 years from down the road, people will be like, yo, that's a joke. But I guarantee you that's one of the best selling songs of the year that it came out. But it doesn't mean it's the best song. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Well, here's my thing, right? Like, I think we have to, and I know it's hard to do because the Grammys is the Grammys, but I think we should be in a space where we should try to put our credibility somewhere else because the Grammys have shown time and time again that they kind of just Grammys are going to do what the Grammys are going to do. And if they don't want to put your shit in there, they won't. No matter how good it is, no matter who else is in the category, like they're gonna do whatever they want to do because it's just what they feel. I feel like to me, to a certain degree, they've lost credibility because you do have albums like Macklemore album that won. And I can say probably only because majority of the people who voted on it heard that album specifically. You know what I mean? And they probably were like, "Oh, okay, well that's cool." And but that's not the reason you should win though. You should win because you have the better album. You can just tell from nominations and winners as to what people are actually going off of.
So hold on. And maybe I'm lost here. So the issue people are having is about the best rap album, correct?
That's one of the biggest issues of
What is the issue? What's the issue with the list? Because to me, the list is perfectly fine.
Right. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. Right. To us, we're us three and people who actually listen to rap and understand the rap game, they're going to look at that list and be like, you know what? This is a solid list. This is a lot better than it was last year, the year prior, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
But when you go and on social media, like the Shade Room, the Tubby Man's page, and all these other big social media pages, they're fucking upset because you don't have the little babies, the Lil Uzis, the NBA Young Boys, and all that. And I keep saying their name, listeners, because those are the top three ones that people keep bringing the fuck up. You know what I mean? And that's the backlash that the Grammys are getting for the rap album thing. Like P from QC, he was like, how could Lil Baby have the top numbers, album sold, but he's not nominated for Rap Album of the Year type shit. And I'm like, I like P. I think P, he's done his thing with QC, but I gotta disagree, bro. Like My Turn is not a better album than The Written Testimony. It's not a better album than Alfredo. I'm like, I don't, and it goes again to the whole 6ix9ine thing where people were slamming 6ix9ine. Hey, it's not about the numbers. Numbers don't equate everything. Blah blah blah. Now, when it comes to the Grammys, it's about the numbers. And I feel like once again, motherfuckers love to pick and choose shit when it benefits them.
And I mean, I think a lot of times that's what unfortunately people want to do, where they want to find that moment in time where they can pick and choose what works best for them. But like, I agree with you. Like you said, like anybody with any real taste of like what hip hop is or what rap music is, this list is perfect. And because I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but I know with the Grammys, there's a board. Because I remember Ninth Wonder talked about this before, where there's a board of people that actually get to choose what gets put on these lists. Typically, the people that have always chosen have typically not been from the culture. But apparently, I guess it's like the rule of thumb is like if you won a Grammy before, you can be part of like the people that get to pick. So looking at this list and seeing like, okay, the reason why like someone like P is upset that Lil Baby is not on there despite him selling the most, I'll say this, at least one of the biggest artists this year is, I mean, for best rap album, it says plain as day on the Grammy website. It says for best rap album, for albums containing at least 51% playing time of new rap recordings. So like that means you have to be rapping for at least 51% of this album needs to be rapping. Lil Baby doesn't do that. The Baby kind of does it. Lil Uzi does not do it. And practically any rapper that you could think of, Future doesn't do it for 51%. Now, I agree with what you said, because now realizing, like looking through the list, the melodic album, it wasn't a melodic album, but it was best melodic rap performance, which I think was like the new thing for the Grammys this year, which that dictates for a solo or collaborative performance containing both elements of R&B melodies and rap. Now those nominations is like the Baby, Rowdy Rich, Travis Scott, the Laugh Now Cry Later with Drake and Lil Durk, like Anderson .Paak. So like from that standpoint, I agree with what you said prior to. If people are this upset, you need to, if anything, if you want to use the Grammys as a measuring stick, because I agree with Nigel as well, where we need to not use this thing as the measuring stick to whether or not you're hot or not. Because even Drake came out and said that before. Even I think harking back to like, or I don't even know why I just used that word, but reflecting back to last year where he said this doesn't even matter pretty much. But if that be the case, if people want to use this as a measuring stick, you need to push for the best melodic rap album, and then you can get your Lil Babies. The people like your Lil Babies get as much credit as your J Electronicas and your Freddie Gibbs for Alfredos. So like I think people have to recognize like what the details of each nomination are. But like at the end of the day, you like Drake said, you don't need this to show that you don't need this award to show that you really matter and contribute to what you've done so far.
Not only that, but you shouldn't be judging an NBA YoungBoy the same way you're judging a Jay Electronica album. They sound totally different. Like you can't listen to them with the same set of ears. That would be
Yes, you
a
can.
mistake. You can. You shouldn't.
I mean, listen. If you listen to NBA YoungBoy first, then you go. Never mind. Forget it.
The way I said it, man, the way I see it is this: you can listen to all that shit, right? You can listen to all that. Like I said moments ago, I like Playboy Cardi, but at the same time, my album of the year is fucking Burden Proof / Alfredo 1A 1B type shit. That it is what it is. We get in a serious conversation. Yes, Freddie Gibbs is a much better rapper than your Lil Babies and Lil Uzis. You know what I mean? Niggas singing 60% of the time. I mean, damn near it's like 100% of the time these days. It's not rap music to me. That's not rap music. That's borderline fucking R&B. And I know the R&B niggas, they don't probably like that shit because I'm like, these niggas using hella autotune. So it's just kind of like, how can you say that's fucking rap music? And that's and I get it. The game's changed. It's a new era now and all that. Whatever. The niggas need to have their own fucking. They need to have their own category.
They do.
Then you're You know what I mean? That's like, hey, I'm gonna put Jay-Z up against fucking Lil Baby now. So that's what this is up now. We're talking about the GOAT versus the number one selling album of 2020. We got to put them in the same category according to these fans, and that's fucking ridiculous.
So real quick before we move on, out of the new melodic rappers, who would y'all say is your favorite between y'all two? I'll go with Thug.
I like Thug a lot, but I mean Thug is not new though. You know what I mean? He's not new.
With Young Thug though.
Like I said, I do like Lil Baby. I like Gunna. I like, Lil Uzi. Like I said, Playboy Cardi. Not a fan of NBA YoungBoy. I don't mind Trippie Redd. But I don't know, man. Like I don't necessarily have a favorite. It's more or less of like, okay, they got some songs that they're entertaining songs.
That's it. You didn't say Nav. Honestly,
see, yeah.
Oh well, there you go. I forgot about
his homeboy.
I forgot about the brown boy. You know what's funny? Every time that I like an artist that Nigel doesn't like, Nigel could despise him with all his heart. Like he'll slam the fucking table down and shit. But I happen to like him. Oh, that's your boy. That's your whole boy. You listen to him. You enjoy it so much. But Nigel despises him. Like he despises Nav, and I don't know why. He like Nigel's reminded me of the Tubby Man when he doesn't like Nav. I'm like, damn, it's like they're in cahoots.
Oh. Who would have thought me and him had something in common? That's crazy.
Yeah.
But nah, like, did y'all see? Go ahead.
Well, nah, I was just gonna say I seen this morning I was listening. I actually decided to listen to like this old Playboy Cardi song "Beef."
Okay.
And I'm not gonna hold you. So this is like this weird thing that happened. So when I played it, I was like, "Yo, this sounded so much better back then." To me, it's trash today, right? Like it was a great song at the moment, but it's trash today. So I ended up listening to like some other Playboy Cardi music, and I'm like, and y'all know my disdain for him, and I'm like, "Oh, this is like, it's okay." And then I listened to something, I guess that's like a leak from Whole Lotta Red. And I was like, I think it was the joint where he had like the red dreads or whatever. And I was like, yo, I don't know what he's doing, but he's on to something, yo. That
So
kid,
he's catching onto the wave now too, man.
yo, he's on to something. Yo, I keep it a buck with you. It was a song he did with Kanye that I heard. I'm like, this is like what I thought like the future of music was supposed to be. Like, cause it's more, cause to me personally, I do think rap music is just going to become the new rock music to some extent.
Yeah.
And I think like these artists like this, when it comes to like that melodic stuff, like artists like this are going to be like I can see how people are fans of him. I'm not going to be at no concert. I'm not going to be buying no CD. I ain't going to be saying a whole lot of none of that. But I can see it. He sold me. I think I bought into it now.
Hey man, whole lot of red dropping soon, man. I'm telling you, the nigga is a vibe. If ever, right? According to like he has like a lore. It's kind of weird, and but you know what I mean. The nigga is super he can't rap. He can't.
I think he's aware of it.
But yeah, I think so too. But what he does on the songs, you're kind of like, all right, as long as I'm not taking this serious, I can actually enjoy myself.
I don't know if I could ever go to one of his shows, but it would be kind of interesting to go because nobody's really going to be. Actually, all of his fans know the words to his music. It's kind of weird how much they know the words to it. I don't understand that shit. But speaking of performances, shouts out to Lil Boosie. Apparently, he was on stage performing, not necessarily back on his feet, but back out in the crowd. So, shouts out to him.
Yo, stop it, yo. You practiced this one, didn't you?
I didn't. Yo, it's all off the cuff, man. I swear. Like, I got a little bit of notes written for shit, but like, shouts out to him. He's healthy.
You wrote that when you saw that shit on Instagram. You were like, hey, not on his feet, but back in the crowd. TMZ worthy. I like it, man.
Nah, man. Like, we all want good music. And speaking of Young Thug,
hold on.
Okay.
Well, shit, I'm like, I think out of all of us, I am the Bootsy fan out of all of us.
That's true. That's true. You're right. Speak your speech.
Yeah. This is like, I watching the performance. One thing I knew was like, yo, this man Bootsy always gonna get to a bag, regardless. Like I think he said in the video, he was like, yo, the money don't stop. He's like, it's a shame what I got to do for the money, but it's seeing him actually perform him performing in a wheelchair was very surprising. It reminded me somewhat of a gruesome flashback to Jay Dilla when he was actually performing. When in his situation, he was on his last leg, no pun intended, and he was God, I did not think that through.
Just keep on going, man. Just keep on going. Just keep on going.
But yeah. So he was he was on his last leg or whatever. So he was performing in a wheelchair. And in this situation with Bootsy, no pun intended, after that shooting with Mode 3, he ended up the doctors were afraid he may lose his leg. And apparently I think he did like 2 surgeries and he has like another surgery or 2 left to hopefully keep his leg. So in the meantime, if you want to go to Bootsy, hold on. He's doing a show on a wheelchair in the God, this is crazy. In the pandemic in a wheelchair.
Man. Shouts out
2020
to him,
has been a hell of a year, man.
Shouts out to him, man. Like
shouts out to Bootsy, man. Shout outs to Bootsy getting this paper. And trust me, anybody listening to this, because of that, we will be putting up some throwback clips of Bootsy this week.
Yeah. All right, cool. Young Thug said earlier this week he would not want to work with Andre 3000 and would prefer to work with Elton John because, quote unquote, Elton John likes to kiss ass and Andre 3000 like his ass kissed.
Yeah. AKA Elton John is a fan, acts more like a fan in comparison to Andre 3000, who will make you actually call an assistant. Pretty much. I actually watched the interview. I watched the majority of the interview. I watched that segment as well. I don't necessarily agree with Young Thug.
I get it though.
I get it, but it really came from a place of I could tell there's like, to me, from what I watched of it, it seemed like I think Thug understands who he is, right?
Right.
And understanding where he is within the ecosystem of Atlanta music. I think even like T.I. said, and I agree, I think we all agree to it. It would be Future, Young Thug, and Migos was like the horsemen that led like that next era of rap music for Atlanta. So
Yep.
I think because of that, I think to him he believes he's at a higher echelon. So because to him he says he doesn't feel as though like Andre 3000 is like a OG or anything like that. He doesn't
And
think
that's why I disagree.
yeah, but he said like it. We also got to think about we got to look at it from the perspective of an Atlanta artist saying this about another Atlanta artist. Like in his mind, he's like, "Yo, to hit up Andre 3000, he's gonna make you go through his assistant." It's like, "Yo, we all from Atlanta, bro. You shouldn't even be doing that." And I think that's his issue. That's where his issue lies. I don't necessarily agree with it, but
Go ahead, Lyle.
I was gonna say I see where Spencer's coming from on that because like Atlanta, it's kind of like everybody knows everybody to some extent. Where people actually record songs with a lot of artists. They all record music together. Like for example, Gucci. You know how many artists? Like I said, Future when Future was Dirty Sprite One, fucking the Migos when they used to be rapping with the chains dangling and the microphone and shit. Like this is all before niggas Bankroll Fresh, before he was called Bankroll Fresh. You know what I mean? So like all these artists know each other from some point of Soldier Boy too. Soldier Boy, he was like, yeah, I did this song with Zaytoven. Next thing I went to the Migos, blah blah blah. So I could see why Young Thug was like, hey, look, you're from Atlanta, you know the culture, you know, you're not being like the big homie like you're supposed to be. So I can understand why he feels the way he does. I mean, just from I'm not saying that it's right, I guess, whatever, from an outsider's perspective, but like if that's like the norm over there, where like, hey, all the OGs they make sure they get in touch with the next generation or the up and comers, and they all put them on and shit like that. I can't say Young Thug is wrong for that if that's the norm.
No, I don't blame him for feeling the way he's feeling, and I do think it's weird when you feel like you shouldn't have to call through somebody's assistant to get in touch with them, and I can understand the feeling that he has. So I mean, shouts out to Thug, man. Like I hope that one day they would record or make some music together because I feel like it would probably sound kind of dope. But that being said, Andre
yeah.
3000 is doing his thing, playing the flute and shit. So I mean, I don't think he's overly worried about the situation.
Nah, I don't think so either. I mean, even Ti came out and said like, "Yo," when they were actually having the conversation, Tip even came out and told him like, "Yo, as soon as you leave, like the next song you need to do should be with Three Stacks, just because he told him he was like I can't name you two songs from Andre 3000. He was like I never listened to him like that a day in my life. So for him, I think a lot of it, I think there's a lot more than what was displayed in the
Exactly.
in that interview, but because you could just tell that it was like it's probably something else that is either what he said that he's not going to go into deep detail about or whatever, but you could tell there's something there. But I mean, shout outs to both of them. Andre 3000 still playing the flute in Atlanta somewhere at your gas station near you. Hopefully, I run into him one day.
For real.
And shout outs to Thug because at the end of the day, the reality is, I think that's something that they all could establish from this interview. Like seeing it with Ti, Young Thug, and Benny the Butcher, and Rhapsody as well.
Three
Like
legends.
yeah, like, but even seeing it from sitting watching just those three men just there sitting there because since Rhapsody was calling in, you notice like, oh, someone like Benny the Butcher that we all respect and like think like, yo, this is like the next big guy. You realize like, oh, it made me realize where he sat in terms of like his artistry and like how like we complained before about how like, oh, someone like Benny the Butcher isn't selling more than or doing better than or doing as good as like other artists, right? You sat there sitting watching it, it was just like, okay, you seeing Ti, who was like the guy of the 2000s, Thug, who was one of the guys of the tens, and now someone like Benny the Butcher, who's totally different, that's coming from a different street perspective, from an up north perspective, and who knows, we may be seeing the guy that may be that guy of this decade, but I don't know. It kind of put things in perspective in terms of like just the legacy that's led, because you know what I mean, like you never realize how big somebody else is until you put them next to somebody that's just as big or not bigger.
I mean,
So
I agree with you. They said we saw the picture with Benny and Rick Ross house and shit like that.
yeah,
I really think Benny, man, he's just it's not a matter of if, it's just more or less okay. Like, when is this guy gonna
pop.
claim the fucking pot, claim the throne and all that shit like that? Because, like, let's face it, right? I think West Side, he's where he's at right now. He might get a little bigger, but he's not. He's not gonna be boom. Conway, that I feel the same thing about Conway, right? He might get a little bigger, but he ain't gonna be like boom. Benny is the only guy out the group that's like, yo, this nigga's about to be boom, right? Because
Facts.
the younger artists, they're fucking with him. So do the older artists, they fuck with him. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking about the young, pissing in their pants teenagers that just listen to melodic rap all the time. I'm talking about the young ones that are like, hey, I like melodic rap, but I know real rap as well. And I think Benny, man, he's I don't want to be like, oh, he's going to be the face of rap in the 20s, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's a staple in the 20s.
Yeah,
Well,
I can definitely agree to that. I think there'd be a lot more to be seen. I think in the time to come, when it comes to someone like Benny. I mean, hopefully we're able to watch him like age well as a rapper. Definitely in this era with him. Definitely with him being like in like his latter parts of his 30s and going into, we'll end up watching him having like one of these not odd careers, but one of those like very different careers as an artist that went from like being in their mid 30s to probably being like the big artist, but in like almost 50.
Look at Ross.
Yeah.
Ross was in his 30s when he popped.
well, speaking of having legends put next to each other, so they can be measured up, we had the fight of fights this weekend, Tyson versus Jones, and it lived up to somewhat of what I expected it to be. And we also had Nate Robinson getting knocked on his ass, very quickly by Jake Paul.
So shouts out to Tyson. Shouts out to Roy Jones. Um, I didn't watch the fight blow from blow, but I caught some highlights and also read what people were saying on Twitter. It seemed like a lot of people enjoyed it. To me, from the highlights I've seen, it just looked like Tyson was holding back because of the rules, the mythical rules of boxing, because they like to protect people and shit like that in boxing. And I'm not talking about protect people from health. They like to protect the image. So I think that it's a it's good for both men to be making money for doing something that they love in their 50s and shit. So shouts out to them. Shouts out to Roy Jones. From the grace of the boxing politics, he was able to not get knocked out. So he was able to, keep his health intact. He did come out in a post-fight interview saying like everything Tyson threw did hurt him. So imagine if it was, hey, this is an official bout, Tyson probably would have knocked him out clean in the first round. But like I said, shouts out to Roy Jones. He's able to live to tell the tale. He was able to avoid a concussion. So I think it was great. If you spent your hard-earned money on it, more power to you. I knew that, it was not something you should spend your money on, especially when they've ruled the fight a draw, when Tyson looked like he clearly won. But
Well,
I understand it's the, world boxing corrupt rule set. So that it is, come on, they selected their own judges, selected their own refs. It was a joke. One guy gave it to Tyson, one guy gave it to Roy Jones, and one guy gave it to both. Like how it's boxing 101, and both guys ended up getting a belt. They both got trophies. They're both precipitated. Hey, since you guys are both fighting in this boxing fight, we're both going to give you this title, and this title is now the equivalent of the linear heavyweight championship. And now they're heavyweight champions, Nigel. Now they are.
Well, look at it like this, right? Like when you saw the end of the bout, and they were sitting there in their post fight interviews and whatnot. They were like, "Hey, Mike Tyson, it's a draw. How do you feel about that?" He was like, "I'm all right with that. I'm fine." They talked to Roy Jones. He's like, "Yeah, I'm not all right with the draw." Da 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 da. My point being is that one of them were talking about oh, I'm all right with this because I know I won. And and Mike Tyson was like, yeah, but you took those hard punches that I hit you with. Like, good for you. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, look, the way I see it is like we all kind of knew what it was before the weekend hit. And I didn't really expect anything crazy. It looked like if Mike Tyson was going it looked like he was going like maybe 80 if he wasn't going 100, right? If he really wanted to win that fight, I think he could have put him out, but I don't think he's trying to go out there and break the quote unquote rules that they had. Did you watch the fight, Spence?
Yes, I watched the fight.
Oh, so you think that he was fighting at his full capacity?
Yes, I watched both bouts, that and the Nate Robinson bout. Like I watched both of them. Like when I watched the Mike Tyson fight, it looked, at first I did think like, oh, Tyson might be holding back, but there were moments where you saw glimmers of the old Mike Tyson. The only reason why I think Mike Tyson did not knock Roy Jones out was the fact that Roy was holding pretty much about
holding on for dear
75% of every round. 75% of every round. As soon as he got hit, and you could tell how bad those punches were, because when they were putting those belts on him at the end, like during the post conference or whatever, during that post interview, you could see it in his face where it just hurt to breathe. Like, I know he woke up this morning and I know he was just peeing blood. Like,
oh yeah, for sure. Like I was watching that fight. I'm like, there's no way in hell his body's not in serious pain, because Mike Tyson was getting him.
Hey man, he'd rather take that than be knocked unconscious, where he's waking up on a hospital bed.
Listen, man, he came close. There was moments where you could see like Tyson is just not fast. Tyson's not as fast as who he once was.
Exactly.
And like, I do agree though, like Lau, I do think there is some corruption here, because like, plain as day, anybody with any, Ray Charles could have told you, Steve Wonders could have told you even better, that Tyson won the fight. Like, straight up. Like, Tyson won the fight. He pressed him. He was hitting him with body shots. You saw how he was pivoting, switching. It looked like the Mike Tyson we would see, like, throwing these little like these little shadow boxing things when we would see like these clips. It was the same guy. It's just, it's different when you see a 10-second clip of someone throwing punches and someone going in for, 8 2-minute rounds or 6 2-minute rounds.
The thing is, and I think one of the commentators said it while I was watching, like, it's a little harder to get like a beat on your opponent when it's only 2-minute rounds, like a pop, you know what I mean? And I think honestly, if he had maybe 1 extra minute in there, the fight might have been stopped, because Mike Tyson was really kind of digging into his body, and it's like it's only a matter of time before he starts mixing it up with the headshots. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, look at what Mike Tyson said in the beginning before this all started. He was like, "Yo, listen, you can win." He was like, "Listen, every fighter comes in there with we all have this unwritten agreement that we all could die fighting." It's like, he was like, me and Roy had both signed that unwritten agreement that either one of us could die tonight. So like, don't get me wrong, I think he did a lot of this just to boost up the fight, because it definitely sold it. But the reality is, like, what we saw, I could tell they wanted a rematch, because for a draw to happen, you saw what Tyson said, right? He said, "Yo, it's a draw. That just means we got to run it back, man." Yeah, it's like, come on.
Didn't look too excited about that.
Heck no.
He's like, yo, nah. He's like, I'm all right, man. Like, I think he wants to get the win. He's like, let me talk to the family and see what they feel like.
That was the clearest indication that he was not going to fight again. He was like, yo, I got to talk to my family, see what my family saw. If they saw something, if my family watched it on TV and they saw what they liked, then I'll see if I want to come fight. It's like, come on, Roy. You know you got beat. You know you got beat bad, and it's hard to breathe right now. So you know you're not fighting this man again.
But Mike Tyson didn't look terrible though.
So
for an old man.
No, he didn't. Shouts out to Iron Mike.
Right.
So you guys think they're going to unify they're going to you think they're going to unify the titles between Tyson and Tyson?
Who you gonna have?
The Tyson and Tyson Fury. They're gonna. Oh my god!
Come on.
They're gonna fight for the Tyson belt. Shit, they're gonna make that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, Mike Tyson's a heavyweight champion again, according to the WBC. So I'm just saying that now we have multiple heavyweight champions again. So they literally gave them both a belt. They literally
that lets you know. They knew this going in. They were like, yo, so we're not gonna tell them. Mike knew. I think Mike knew they both was gonna win. I think the only person that wasn't in on this whole thing was Roy. Roy was probably the only person that really thought, yo, this guy wants me to rematch him. He's out of his mind. Like,
and more entertaining news, right? Nate Robinson got face planted, which was the meme of the night last night. And I've seen so many memes from last night going into this morning about Nate Robinson. Some of the craziest thing I've seen was like people are like, yeah, he's no longer black. And then posted memes of like, this is how black people look at Nate Robinson and et cetera, et cetera. And I looked at it and I was like, yo, the dude, he did go to sleep. You know what I mean? I remember Spence was like, yeah, man, he's actually snoring. And I was like, yeah, I was like, the guy was out. He was out. But I say to that, are you guys surprised? Like, you talk about a guy who's probably trained for a couple months for the first time in his life.
He looked like he didn't really train at all, for real.
There you go. For the first time in his life against, Jake Paul's a YouTuber, him and his brother talk match it. And yes, they do come off as dicks. But at the same time, the guy, he's been training for like 2 years and boxing. And he already had a boxing bout on an actual boxing pay-per-view already. So like, what did you guys expect? Like, what is it that surprising that Nate Robinson was going to get, knocked out? And a lot of people are actually criticizing the ref. They were like, yo, that fight should have been stopped from the first knockdown. I just look at it. Well, you know how boxing is,
right?
But I just look at it as kind of like, one, I was definitely there for the memes. I thought it was really funny seeing all the memes and making fun of Nate Robinson. But two, I was just kind of like, I'm not really impressed with Jake Paul. Once again, he fought a non-boxer, and then he's going out there calling Dylan, Dennis, and Connor. I was telling Spence, I'm like, those guys, they might not even entertain. I mean, Dylan might, because he's always on social media.
Right.
But I'm like, Conor McGregor, he's not going to entertain Jake Paul. He's looking for your Pacquiao's and Mayweather's. The guy's just going to bring him 9 digits. He's not going to fight some YouTube guy who doesn't fight real fighters. He's beating up other YouTube guys,
Here's the thing, right? Like the same reason why Jake Paul shouldn't fight Conor is the same reason why we shouldn't be surprised that Nate Robinson lost to Jake Paul, is because these people are actually trained and they're at a higher skill level than you are. If you watch Nate Robinson run around that ring and he's just running at him, just throwing punches at his face. And it's like, well, no shit that you got knocked out. This guy,
you walked right into the punch, man.
Like, for real, like he did, like he ran into his fist, if anything. Like it was weird. Like,
Jake Paul didn't even move.
Nah, it was just weird, man. Like, I'm sitting there watching it, and even I honestly didn't believe the fight was going to happen until it happened. I was like, oh shit, they're actually going to fight, and I knew Jake Paul was going to win. I just didn't think he was going to knock his ass out. He put him to fucking sleep, man. Like, this shit was fucking crazy, and it's really, I don't know. Like, that's just why you don't run up on people who are actually training for a fight.
Well, it's that. Plus, I think he thought he was fighting Jake from State Farm. Like, there's no possible way. Like, anybody that understands just the technique of fighting itself, you can't just run into somebody unless you just know. Unless you're Brock Lesnar. You're Brock Lesnar, I can just walk through everything that you got going on. Make sure you don't kick me, and I'm just gonna take you to the ground. In this situation, Nate Robinson looked just uneasy and overly anxious and looked like he didn't know what he was doing. He kept running towards him. And I said, I knew it. I was like, because he got knocked down twice, I think, prior to this. I think this is a second or third knockdown. And I knew it. I was like, yo, he keeps running into him. If you keep walking into it and you saw the punches that, like, that Logan Paul or Joe, whatever his name is, I don't really care. Jake Paul or whatever. The punches that he was throwing, you could tell what little you could see from it. It's like, oh, I'm not gonna say he knows how to fight. He's not gonna be the Gervonta Davis or Devin Haney or somebody. But I also know like, oh, this guy has like he's doing head movements, he's doing some feints. It's like he's throwing his jab. I'm like, okay, this guy has been trained. Like
Yeah.
you could see like there's a difference between the two fighters. So I hope for Nate Robinson, like for one, I hope the Knicks. I'm quite sure the Knicks will probably ban him from the arena moving forward because he was wearing Knicks colors. He was wearing orange and blue last night and a pair of Jordans.
It's representative of how their team's going right now.
Yeah,
Jeez,
man.
man.
He made
Shouts out
Jake,
to LaMelo Ball.
he he made Jake look like a superstar. He made Jake look like this world class boxer. From the way Jake made him kiss the fucking mat last night.
Like he was Miguel Cotto or something.
Yeah, like Nate
What was
Robinson.
the-
He
what was
knows
that
how.
one dude's name?
What one dude? Ricky Hatton.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Ricky
yeah.
Hatton.
Yeah,
Jay-Z put that in the rhyme.
how Floyd made him fucking be get familiar with the boxing ring and the mat. That's how Jake Paul made him kiss the mat a few times. Like I wouldn't be
Like Ricky
surprised.
Hatton.
Yeah,
He
like
had his little twist flying in the air and shit.
yeah, he was punching. You see the shit fly. Like he made Jake Paul like he gave Jake Paul fuel to talk shit now and blow his shit up about like I think I could fight Connor, I could fight Dylan, I could fight boxer A and B. Like that fight should have never been a professional bout. That should have never been sanctioned. But of course, Nate Robinson probably was like, "Look, I'm gonna beat this white boy up. I'm gonna beat this white boy up who got money and he's a punk. I'm gonna fuck him up. I'm from the NBA. I'm athletic, and everybody who watches combat sports is like, okay, buddy, we're about to see.
Like, are you trained? If you're not, then prepare to get your ass beat.
Yeah,
Essentially.
I mean,
I'm just saying, man. Like all the memes and all that, it's warranted, man. That he's waking up, shaking his head. I can't believe I got knocked out. And I'm like, well, I'm just saying, bro. Hey, man, he kissed the mat quite a few times.
Well, go ahead.
I was going to say it's very reminiscent of like, in a way that how history repeats itself. Because I'm not sure if you guys remember back in the day with Sticky Fingers when he fought. Who was it? I think he fought like a skater or something like that. I think it was like some skateboarder Simon or something like that. Man, he fought this guy and he got beat up just as badly. I think Nate Robinson got knocked out in comparison to Sticky Fingers. I think they stopped the fight for Sticky Fingers. I think it was a TKO.
At least he didn't get his ass beat, like where he's unconscious, like snoring on the mat. He
no,
was
but
having dreams down there.
But it was worse, I think, for Sticky Fingers though, because Sticky Fingers got beat up for like rounds. This only lasted a round. This was like a 2-round fight. Huh?
He thought he was in Creed 3, just dreaming, like sleeping on the mat.
Yeah.
The shit was bad, man. Like you see people get knocked out like that in boxing. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, damn, yo, like that shit looked fucking crazy. I haven't seen somebody get knocked out like that in a long time. That was great for me. I love seeing knockouts. You know what I mean?
The last time I seen something like that, when I watching it live, the knockout I thought of the most was Manny Pacquiao when he got knocked out by by Marquez. I think it was Pacquiao Marquez 3. When he got like or 4, when he just got straight flatlined. That's when he fell in real time. That's what it seemed like. Yeah, I was like, there's no, he's dead. He's done.
Yeah, I mean, when Pacquiao got knocked out by Marquez, you could probably make fun of it, right? Because it's a knockout, whatever. But it was more like, oh shit, Marquez got his ass, and it was more respectable, right? Because you have two good boxers. You have two guys that the WBC probably gave them championship belts as well. Probably, you have two of them you know, like, hey, we're going to get a guy who's never fought a day in his life make his professional debut against a guy who's already made his pro debut, who's been training for the past 2 years, and we're going to see what happens. I wonder who's going to win. And of course, they suckered and they stole people's money who really believed Nate Robinson was going to win. And the next year, at the end of the night, Nate Robinson, his fucking legs is crossed together. He's looking like Alistair Overeem after, like yeah, his lips is imprinted in the fucking mat now. It's like it's crazy, and at the end of the day, the WBC still gave Nate Robinson a championship belt. I bet. So it's just, I mean, come on, like they Jake Jake Paul, he got a fucking medal for winning that fight. For what? What you got a medal for?
All right. Well, before we get out of here, y'all, is there anything else y'all want to say and tell the listeners about what's going on?
A couple things I want to say: drink water, wear your mask, wash your hands, and sanitize. Drink water, wash your hands, wear a mask, and sanitize. I would do it third time, but I feel like I don't need to be on my Umar thing right now. I feel like Umar got a lot of talking to do right now with Nate. So, yeah, with all that being said, I ain't got much to be said though. It's been a good week. Happy holidays to everybody. Wish everybody a happy first week of the year of December. So by the time y'all hear this, so
I mean, I just want to say, if your lifelong dream is to become a world champion boxer, fight for the WBC. And whether you get knocked out unconscious and you're going to be on the Make a Wish Foundation, shouts out to the people going through that. But if you want to be a champion, if you want to be a champion, reach out to the WBC. They'll make it happen for you. Unfortunately, you may have to unify your title because that's how boxing is.
I guess the only thing I really have to say is this is going to be the last time I talk to y'all before my birthday hits. Shouts out to my fellow Sagittarius people. We are heading into December and get ready for Christmas. There's a lot of shit to buy for people. Be safe because people are dying out here and, it's no joke. So we don't want any more deaths on our hands. But other than that, you have been highly advised. We will see y'all next week.
rest in peace, Auntie Faye. You've been highly advised.
Highly advised.